Hey, terrific third graders. It's Mrs. O'Connell here today. Today, we are going to compare fractions using the 1/2 fraction as our benchmark. Now, a benchmark is a reference point that we can use. It's something that we can easily visualize. You might remember back in our measuring unit that we used the paper clip as a benchmark for 1 inch. And we use the Crayola box as a benchmark for 1/2 foot or 6 inches. And we use the piece of paper for a benchmark as a foot or 12 inches. Okay, and today we're going to look at the fraction of 1/2 as our benchmark. So real quick, I want you to pause the button and I want you to run and get your pencil, journal page 235, and your number line. And it's very important that you get your number line because we're going to be using it a lot right now. Okay, now that you're back, let's look at the number line, the fraction number line, and let's look at 1/2. Okay, you could put a sticker up here or you could draw a line to show the 1/2. And these other fractions that line up with the 1/2 are equivalent fractions to 1/2. That means they equal 1/2. 2/4 equals 1/2 because 2 is 1/2 of 4. Okay, 4/8 equals 1/2 because 4 is 1/2 of 8. Well, when we look at this fraction number line, it helps us in comparing fractions. For example, if I was to look at 1/3 and 2/3, I can tell that 1/3 is less than 2/3 because 1/3 is closer to the 0. The closer the fraction is to the 0, the less the fraction is. The further the fraction is from the 0, the greater the fraction is. I can also compare fractions from different number lines. I can look at 1/3 and I can look at 1/4, okay? And I can tell that 1/4 is actually smaller than 1/3 because it's closer to 0. Okay, so I want you to look at page 235 for just a minute, and we're going to compare some fractions and decide if they should go in fractions that are less than 1/2, fractions that are equal to 1/2, or fractions that are greater than 1/2. So I want you to start with 1/3. I want you to go ahead and circle that on your number line, okay? And now I want you to write it in your book, and you may pause this video at any time if you need a little extra time to write, okay? And I want you to write 1/3 where you think that it will go. And if you wrote it in less than 1/2, you are correct. Okay, now I want you to look at 3/7, okay, on your number line and find it and circle it. Now I want you to decide where you think it goes. Fractions less than 1/2, equal to 1/2, or greater than 1/2. If you wrote fractions less than 1/2, you are correct again. Okay, now I want you to look at 3/4 on your number line, okay? And I'm going to look at that one with you. And you will notice that the 3/4 is between 1/2 or 2/4 and 4/4, 1/2, okay? Which box do you think is the correct location for 3/4? Do you think it's less than 1/2, equal to 1/2, or greater than 1/2? Well, if you chose greater than 1/2, you're correct, okay? Then we could even take some of these fractions and we could write sentences with them. So I could say 3/7 is less than 3/4, and that would be true. Or I could say 3/4 is greater than 1/3, and that would be true. And in just a few minutes, you're going to be writing some true sentences yourself. Okay? Now, before we do that, I am going to ask you to circle some fractions on your number line, okay? I would like for you to start with the fraction 1/5. Would you go ahead and circle 1/5? And we're not, right now, all we're going to do is circle, and then I'm going to have you place them. Okay? So let's just circle for now. Okay? And now I want you to circle 7/8. Okay? And then 2/4. Okay? And 5/7. Okay? And 5/6. 1/6. And last but not least, 3/6. Okay? And then I would like for you to now take those fractions that you just circled on your number line and place them in the correct boxes where you think they belong. Okay? And while you're starting to do that, I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to discuss where you place them. Now, if you are not ready for this part, you can pause the video and come back to it in just a minute. Now, we've already written 1/3 and 1/4 and less than 1/2 and 3/4 greater than 1/2. Okay? Did you put 5/6 greater than 1/2 and 1/6 less than 1/2 and 7/8 greater than 1/2 and 1/5 less than 1/2? At this point, you should just be checking. Hopefully, you've already done all this. And 2/4 is equal to 1/2, and 3/6 is also equal to 1/2. Okay, so check those boxes and make sure that's where you put everything. Now, let's go ahead and read number 2. Number 2 tells you to choose 2 fractions that are less than 1/2. Okay, so we're going to look in this box right here, and we're going to choose 2 fractions that are less than 1/2. We're going to write one fraction here and another fraction here, okay? And then of these 2 fractions, which one is closer to 0? And how do you know? Well, hint, hint, you might want to go back and look at your number line, okay? And then you're going to write a number sentence with the 2 fractions that you chose using either the less than, greater than, or equal sign. And then you will come to number 3, and you're going to do the exact same thing, except this time you're going to choose fractions out of the greater than box, okay? And you're going to decide which one is closer to 1/2. Don't forget your number line, hint, hint. And then you're going to write a true statement, okay? So boys and girls, I know you're going to do great on this, okay? And remember, we are comparing fractions using 1/2 as our benchmark. And I can't wait to see how you did, and I hope you have a great day. And as always, if you have any questions, don't forget to let me know. You can just email me or ask your teacher or let me know. Have a great day. Bye-bye.